Shut up and sit down.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Dirty Deuce podcast. Today we have Pete with us here. Now, in the last podcast that I did, in the description, I made a little quip that we're talking about the Rona because that's all that's going on in the world, and you contest that there is more than the coronavirus in the world.
That I do. I happen to have been keeping a list, actually, and when I saw your video go up, I had to protest.
Fair enough. So, what's on the top of your list?
So, at the top of my list is, keeping in line with the apocalypse, is the fact that there's a plague of locusts going around, and the largest grouping of them is the size of New York State.
You know, I did actually hear something about that, and then the coronavirus got pretty serious, and nothing at all. I'm not terribly religiously minded, but a plague followed by, like, a swarm of locusts? I mean, I'm trying not to go all in on the conspiracy theories, but that's kind of overwhelming evidence. I mean, if it starts raining frogs, I'm pretty much on board.
Well, the raining frogs thing can be scientifically explained. You know, the eggs are in the water gets evaporated, the eggs hatch, it rains frogs. A plague of locusts the size of New York, rampaging East Africa, the Middle East, and the entire Indian subcontinent, in fact. You know, if it weren't for the corona apocalypse going on right now, we would probably have the same response to it that we did the Zika virus and, you know, Ebola that was happening over in Africa.
Yeah, why do you think that our response has been so serious for this virus when we've had some pretty serious public health concerns in the past? We're just like, fuck it, if they die, they die.
Well, I mean, what kind of public health concern would you compare this to?
I suppose the most direct comparison would probably be Spanish influenza, and we didn't even stop any of the wars or anything going on. We're just like, we're too busy killing people to take a break for people dying. Like, if they die on the battlefield, if they die in the hospital bed, fuck it, man, we'll just get more people.
I mean, to be fair, we're doing the same currently. We still got soldiers out and they're still warring.
Honestly, I think being deployed would be pretty safe, all things considered. Because you really don't have a lot of contact with the local populace. It's not like wars in the past. Like,
yeah,
you go from your base, you kill the people, you don't really hang out, and then you go back to your base.
And, you know, you have access to mop gear. For you civilians out there, that's just PPE, the protective equipment that the military wears. You have access to that stuff, and you've got it, like, at the ready.
We also have access to actual mops.
Everyone in the military is good with a mop.
As long as you're not an officer.
Fair enough. Some officers are, from enlisted to officer.
I've never heard of such a thing.
No?
Anyway.
Anyway, speaking of the Ebola outbreak that I mentioned, for nearly 2 years, there's been a giant Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the last patient has just a couple of weeks ago been reported as cured.
Interesting.
Survived. So the Ebola outbreak is absolutely done. So, you know, one plague ends, one door closes, another one opens.
Do you think it's just a matter of location that the whole world is freaking out about corona and the whole world just can't give a fuck about Ebola or AIDS or any of the other stuff that's just continuously destroying Africa?
Okay, so the thing about that, have you heard of the book World War Z? They made a movie out of it recently.
Yes, I've read World War Z.
Okay, so the author was recently doing a interview for the BBC, and he was comparing research that he did for the book, and a lot of it lines up with current strain of coronavirus. It started in China, and he said that the reasoning for World War Z, the virus that turns people into zombies, starting in China, was for three specific things. You need an authoritarian government that's going to tell the people to hush hush. You need a country that is highly populated, and a country that is newly infrastructured. So they've got the infrastructure to move around. They can hop on a train or a boat or a plane, but they're still new to it. So they don't have all the protections in place like countries that have been doing it for 100 years or whatever. So China was really their own maker for the World War Z thing, and his research was good enough that it's come to happen with COVID.
I would throw on that list Chinese herbal medicine.
Yeah.
Like the kind of black magic voodoo witchcraft where they just pick different parts off every living animal and say it cures all these diseases while simultaneously creating all these diseases. I don't know why we still allow this stuff. Like, I get it's like a cultural thing, but it obviously doesn't work. It's causing mass extinction of all these rare species. It's a plague unto the world. It's a total plague.
I'm sorry, I checked out for a minute there. You said a plague unto the world causing mass extinction. You were talking about humans there, right?
Chinese herbal medicine, but...
Because with everybody staying indoors, there's a lot of wildlife, some that were thought to be completely extinct, have been seen in the wild. The ozone layer is healing itself.
Thanos was 100% right. We are fucking this world up. And I find it fascinating how fast the planet bounces back.
Really fast.
Like, I saw pictures of the Venice Canal.
Clear blue.
Like, after Italy got hit with the apocalypse. And you could see to the bottom of it. And there were all these fish in there. It was just teeming with life.
Dolphins.
Like, God damn, that's all it took. We just need to take, 1 week off of fucking the planet. We should just take a week off fucking the planet every year. Shit would be fine. I suppose that would fuck up the GDP, though.
Oh, yeah. As long as the GDP is okay, then we can take a week off.
Well, fun thing is, the GDP is fucked. The economy's fucked. And we're all fucked. And I've been kind of preaching this for a while, because our system is essentially a giant Ponzi scheme. The only way that the economy goes up is we have to keep feeding more people and more resources and more bullshit into the bottom. But you can't expand the base of the economy forever. We've pulled a lot of tricks by just making money out of nowhere with uncontrolled debt. And we say, oh, where's this money? It's in the future. We're stealing money from the future to pay for today and all this stuff that we're trying to do now. And the thing with a Ponzi scheme is it always collapses. And it collapses usually when people realize that they're getting screwed and people who are invested in it aren't going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, the world may very well be full of suckers, but there's only a few billion of them.
Yes, we have a limited supply of suckers. We have a lot of them. We got billions of them.
But it is limited.
And our plan, as far as I can tell, if there is a plan, was to just create more people. That's why, all these countries with a negative birth rate are kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we need more people to build this economy up, otherwise we're not going to have the money for all these old people. And my question is, what did all these old people do with their money when they were young people?
They bought houses.
Where's their saving? Where's their pension? Where's their insurance? Where's their end-of-life funds? Like, it would be nice for me to have a retirement, but I don't have all my eggs in the basket of the government paying me a retirement. It would be nice for me to have a more traditional, like, 401k retirement through the stock market, where I do my work, I invest, I buy into the stock market throughout the entirety of my life, and then all of the interest and dividends of a life of hard work and smart investing pays for my living in old age. Like, that's kind of the pseudo lie that everyone was sold on the stock market and why we have it. You know, you work hard, you build into it, and it funds everyone's retirement who doesn't get a traditional retirement.
It's supposed to be.
I still got a lot of guns and gold.
Well, you know, what you can't buy with gold, you can steal with guns.
Yeah, like, you have to have all of your bases covered. You know, if you can get a stable 20-year retirement, awesome, do it. If you can do a traditional market-based retirement, do that. But you have to be prepared for everything going sideways and all this shit that they promised you just not being there.
There are some things that are hard to prepare for. To get back on topic with the apocalypse, we got the coronavirus going on, we've got the plague of locusts going on, and the largest earthquake in the last 5 years hit last Sunday in Croatia, and thousands of people died in their capital city.
Really, I've heard nothing of that.
Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's still happening, even though coronapocalypse is going on. And this is one of them. And I mean, the Prime Minister is urging people to distance themselves from each other while they're fleeing the buildings that are falling down around them. And this is a country where their buildings are built of mud and bricks and stuff like that, instead of timber that's meant to withstand stuff like that.
God, that is bananas.
Yeah, there's just bricks and walls and buildings all over the floor of the streets, and nothing anybody can do about it.
You know, I would not be surprised if this is the one that pushes us over the edge. Right? Because if you look at the fall of the Roman Empire and they're like, oh, what made the Roman Empire fall? And it's like, there wasn't one thing. You know, There was the Justinian Plague, which killed like a shit ton of people. And then there was the erosion of the army, where they just kind of started sitting on their laurels and getting shittier armies and outsourcing it to other people. By the way, what does that sound like? Outsourcing all your essentials to other people that you just sort of sucked into your empire. The grain dole just sort of making everybody apathetic and not really want to work. And then eventually attacks from the outside. I think when they look back at the American Empire, they're going to look at like World War II and be like, that's when it peaked. I think we're going to try and get back to normal for as long as we can, and increasingly fuck ourselves. I think we've got one out, and we're playing around with the idea, and we don't want to commit, and I understand why, but I think our one out is going to be universal basic income.
That is exactly what I was going to say. But there are people that are so against that. To count back to the fall of Rome, there are people that claim that that's the reason Rome fell, with their giving every citizen a portion of wheat. There are some people that say that's the thing that tipped it over.
So my argument for universal basic income, I understand and fully agree that if you give people a shit ton of money, it's going to make them lazy because there's nothing forcing them to work. My argument is we are rapidly approaching a society that doesn't need people.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, back in 2011, there was a fairly popular YouTuber made a video called Humans Need Not Apply. And it was just going over the advances in AI that have happened over the years, and how, like, most popular newspapers, like, they don't write all of their stories anymore. There's not a single NBC for the newspaper, mind you. There's not a single NBC writer for sports. All of them have been moved to other projects or fired or, left to go work elsewhere, because all of sports can be scraped over by a bot, an AI, a program, and then written. to look like it was written by a human, and it's done so well that I would bet that most people that are hearing this right now aren't going to believe me. But you can look it up, and it's absolutely true. And NBC's not the only one doing it. You'd be crazy not to, because you pay $400 to get the software made for you, and to get the software customized to where it sounds like one of your writers, and then you don't have to pay any more money. You don't have to feed AI.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of businesses that were kind of on the bubble for AI, and I think this coronavirus thing is going to push them over. Because they've seen their entire workforce is susceptible to just getting sick, not being able to work, susceptible to all these restrictions. Who knows what restrictions are coming in the future? Strike while the iron's hot. We're just going to go a fully robotic workforce. Right? And we're seeing the amount of jobs that we didn't really think in the past that could be automated.
Yeah.
That can be automated. You know, we always used to look at working at McDonald's as being one of these hires of last refuge.
It's a job for a teenager. Yeah. Anyone can get a job there. But I've recently seen a fully automated McDonald's. There's one in Japan. You go in, you order on the screen, and your food comes down a chute.
Yeah, and I think any companies that have a model that support automation currently are completely unaffected by this. And companies that have a business model that's based on a lot of people are getting fucked right now. They have to shut down.
It's one of the main reasons why the UPS is taking a downturn while Amazon is taking an upturn. Because Amazon's warehouses are, for the most part, AI automated. And UPS's warehouses are, for the most part, managed by humans.
Yeah, I believe it. And I think what's going to push us over the edge is trucks that drive themselves.
That's on the way. I mean, if you look at any of the higher end, I'm talking around $50,000 or more cars, they've all got self-driving of some kind, even if it's just keeping speed. Some of the more advanced cars will change lanes to go faster. Some of the more advanced cars will even take you from point A to point B, changing lanes, getting on and off the highway, stopping at stoplights, all of it by itself. Once it's proven that an automated driver is safer than a human driver, it's going to be real hard to argue against that.
All these companies that have giant 18-wheelers, they're going to go full automated.
Yeah, they have no reason not to.
It can drive 24/7, it's going to be safer, real-time tracking. It's just going to be better overall for them. It's going to make them so much more money, and as soon as one does it, their savings is going to be able to drop their prices, so it forces everyone else to do it, or they're going to get pushed out of the market. My question is, what happens to all those drivers? Because truck driver is our generation's employer of last resort. Like, if you got a criminal record, if you're just kind of dumb, if you're antisocial, if just a big jerk, you got anger issues, whatever, we can lock you in this little box and you just drive from A to B.
Yeah.
We don't care what your past is, as long as you can drive safely. I'm sure there's some really great people out there. I'm not disparaging truckers, but I've also known some guys who are just dumb as shit who've made a living driving a truck. And they earn the same as the guy who's, Einstein driving a truck. All pays the same because they just care if it goes from A to B.
Yeah.
So what happens to all these people that are just kind of dumb whenever they can no longer be employed? We've determined that anything that they could possibly do could be done by a machine much cheaper.
Yeah, and with no unions to fight, no chance of the driver falling asleep at the wheel, so your insurance is going to go way down. You don't have to worry about carrying health insurance for your employees anymore because they're all robots. I mean, yeah, you got health insurance for the 5 guys that you have checking the software and making sure everything's running as it should. But other than those, you've no longer paying health insurance for the drivers.
And under our current system,
we're fucked.
Yeah. Well, we essentially have, when all these people that are just unskilled laborers, when all of their jobs get pushed out of the market, we have two options that we can do with them under our current system as it is now. One, we can promote them into higher level middle management jobs. And this is the thing that always pisses me off, because when everyone says, like, oh, you're not supposed to be able to earn a living working at McDonald's. That's just for kids. Like, you're supposed to grow up and get a real job. It's like, okay, what do you do with just somebody who's dumb? Do you want him being your coworker and fucking everything up? Do you want him being your boss? You made him go out and get a real job, and now you have to work with him, and now he's fucking up your company. Or would you prefer him just in his little corner flipping his burgers and driving his truck? Well, now he doesn't have that job. So if you're going to include him in the job market and you want him to be productive, then you have to give him a job that's beyond his capabilities, and he's going to fuck that up, and he's going to fuck up your company, and you're going to have to deal with his dumb ass every day, and you're going to be miserable. Or two, we say, fuck you, and we just dump them on the streets. And you can get away with a lot of people getting fucked by the system. But at some point, you're going to build up a critical mass. And we have so many fucking guns in this country. You don't think these people who are completely disenfranchised from the system aren't going to get some sort of weapons and make an armed revolt just so they can get themselves a piece of the pie? I think no matter what we do, it's going to case for disaster under the current system.
Think about it even this way. Like, they've got these guns, and they're not too smart, and they've lost their job, and they've got the option to try to rob a bank or to hold up a store to get enough money to get by or whatever. And what's stopping them? The punishment is 3 hot meals a day and a bed and clothes. Prison, if they fail. And if they succeed, I mean, they've got money now. They can buy food and clothes and, whatever. Their needs. There's no way for a person in that situation, other than, personal values and morals, to just say, that's not a good idea.
I think the only way out of our current trap now, and the only way out of our future trap of automation putting everyone out of business, is universal basic income.
That's the only way I can think of.
I think if you can tax everyone, put it into a giant pot, and then pass it out again evenly, that would give people not enough that they can get every little hope and desire they'd ever want, but enough that they have the basics in life. They can get food, and they can get shelter. And I think that would keep our system from completely just collapsing under the weight of all these people who the system just doesn't need anymore to perform any labor. And at the same time, it would not give them so much of a handout that it kills all desire to become better.
Yeah, and the number one thing that I really wanted to bring up tonight, and is probably a big enough topic to bring to the end of our podcast today, is the Earn It Act.
Yes, I have heard a little bit about this, but give the people at home a little rundown.
So the Earn It Act is a bill that's currently going through the United States Senate, and the goal of this bill is to punish companies for using end-to-end encryption. Do you have a solid understanding of what end-to-end encryption is and means?
Yes, but there might be people listening to this who don't, so give them the Cliff Notes version.
Sure. To put it simply, end-to-end encryption means that when you send a message to your cousin on Facebook, Facebook can't see that message because the message is encrypted from your end to your cousin's end. With Facebook, with Gmail, with pretty much any messaging service, they have end-to-end encryption currently because any message going through a large enough system is going to eventually turn some heinous or illegal things. And if there's end-to-end encryption, the website that's furnishing these messages back and forth can claim plausible deniability. Not just plausible, provable deniability. So that's a company's main reason for wanting end-to-end encryption. For people, say for example, there's a corrupt police force in your town. You have a small town, you don't even have a police force, you have sheriff. And
I don't think we even need to make up a hypothetical for this. Like, we've all seen China welding people into their fucking homes.
Yeah.
And anyone who says, like, hey, we've got this big virus thing here, they suddenly just disappear.
The very doctor who first brought it to the World Health Organization's attention was, to put it shortly, disappeared.
Yes. And the World Health Organization boldly issued a statement saying there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. I mean, because they're afraid of China. And fair enough.
Yeah, everyone's afraid of China.
Fair enough. There's a lot of them. And they have a respectable army now. But this Earn It Act, to get back on topic, the goal of it is to dismantle end-to-end encryption. And they would do that by punishing companies who refuse to get rid of it on their platforms. So, for example, if your app or your messaging system has end-to-end encryption, you're going to be fined for it. And you're going to be taken away government protection that says you're not liable for any illegal messages going across your system. And that last part is really going to be the killer. Imagine if Facebook was responsible because I decided to send a message to you saying I wanted to overthrow the government. Now Facebook is guilty of treason. And all they did was host a website that allowed me to send a message to someone. Or they can give up that end-to-end encryption and let the government snoop through every message that they have, and not only the government, but anyone. If there wasn't end-to-end encryption, every message that anyone sends is open. That includes messaging to and from your bank.
You know, I think the fundamental error that politicians are making during this crisis is they think that this is how it's always been. We all know that politicians are full of shit, and we all know that they're trying to get every little bit of power and every little bit of money that they can.
Yeah.
But the people, as long as the line on the economy goes up and my family's safe and things aren't horribly crazy right now, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me to do something about it. But the line's going down. The line's going down. The economy's fucked. Who knows how many people are going to get killed because of this thing? Who knows how many lives are going to be disrupted? And we see all the politicians playing all the stupid fucking games, taking all the relief money and siphoning all sorts of pork into it for their little pet projects like, oh yeah, we'll pass a $4 trillion relief act, but we're going to steal $2 trillion of it for our pet projects and our own pay raises. Oh, and I'm going to take all the previous privileged knowledge that I have as a congressman who can get briefed of these things before it's general knowledge, and I'm going to sell off all my stocks. And I'm going to buy stocks that are going to be exploding during the coronavirus. And I'm going to get rich and fuck everyone else.
Yeah, he made over $2.5 million 3 days before the first case was announced in the United States.
I think the gamble that they're going to lose on is that the American people are just going to roll over and take it like they've been taken for the past 60, 70 years. And I want to bet that this thing is going to be big enough that the American people are going to kick them in the dick.
I say we take a note from France and whip out some guillotines.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. If you don't own a guillotine while practicing social distancing, buy or build one. Additionally, for your own safety, because shit's going to get wild, I recommend that you get a gun. I know from our last podcast, it's really hard to do out there. Probably should have bought one earlier. I don't know what to tell you. Other than that, stay safe and stay away from other people and wash your hands.
Yeah, quit touching your face, you freaks.